Welcome to Interesting Enough. He is Trey. I am Nolan. Thank you guys so much for joining us once again. This is your first time listening to the podcast. Thank you. Of course, give us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and keep up to date with all of our content. We got a lot of stuff to get into. We're going to talk some basketball, talk a little March Madness, but we'll talk about some free agency as well. But Trey, man, what's going on? How you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling good, man. You know what I'm saying? We just got done with NFL free agency, so it's been an exciting week.
Yeah, we had that week off, and I think it was properly timed because I guess we were going to talk about football at some point, but football free agency isn't really generally too crazy, I feel like, for the most part, but especially with the amount of like quarterback movement we got with the trades and stuff like that. So I figured we might as well at least touch on some of that. Now, before we talk about what moves we like, because I do want to ask you what free agency moves stuck out to you, because there was a bunch of them. The Justin Fields trade, I feel like we got to at least touch on, because that one kind of happened just recently. So as we're recording this, this happened probably 3-4 days ago. So not too long ago, he went to the Steelers. Now, just for everybody listening, they probably already know about the saga with Justin Fields with the Bears and getting traded because they're going to draft Caleb Williams. But the interesting part is he got traded to the Steelers, and then it's reported that I guess the Bears gave him a couple of options of other teams that were interested with not only similar deals. I guess there was a couple teams that were offering even better deals. Now, we don't know who the teams are. Now, it's reported there was a team that was available that was asking for Justin Fields. I guess they had an established veteran quarterback as a starter, for whatever that means. But my question is, I don't know who the other teams are, but I can't imagine Pittsburgh would be on the top of the list unless the other teams was the Chiefs and the Ravens with Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes or something like that. I don't really know what the logic is, considering the Steelers now have Russell Wilson as the starter, which they said he's going to be the starter going forward. So what's your reaction to all of that? Because I was kind of perplexed when I heard that news that he actually had some options.
Well, I mean, I wasn't surprised that he had options. I just don't think the options were going to be great. Like as far as the return of what Chicago was going to get. So I just think that they were pretty similar. So that's why they just said, hey, we're going to do right by you, and we're going to let you pick whichever one of these four options works best for you. And I think the Steelers works great for him because Russell Wilson might only be there for a year. And as we've seen the last couple of years, his play, it can fall apart really quick. And if it does do that, then I think that this is a team where he has a really good chance to actually make some starts, be around a good system, a good head coach. I know a lot of people had their feelings about Mike Tomlin, but I still think he's a good head coach. He has I would say almost a star wide receiver, or can be a star wide receiver in George Pickens to work with, and a decent offensive line. Like, I just think it was a good pick by him. We already know he's probably not going to start day one, more than likely, unless some kind of injury occurs.
Yeah, they already announced that they didn't bring him in to compete. So essentially, they're saying Russell.
I mean, they're saying that, but I mean, I don't necessarily believe it, but they are saying that.
Well, I don't even know what the logic would be to even come out and say that. That was what was confusing to me too.
Like, I didn't get that either, but I guess that was just to kind of placate Russell Wilson. I could kind of just say, like, okay, we just need to make him feel good. You know what I mean?
No, I don't know what you mean. What we need to make Russell Wilson feel good for? He on a 1-year minimum contract for a reason. Like, hold on now. Both of those guys don't have the leverage to be doing that sort of thing. So that's confusing to me. The Russell Wilson thing to Pittsburgh makes sense because Pittsburgh usually always wants a veteran quarterback that can get the job done. I think if you're the Steelers, you're like, hey, let's take a flyer on Justin Fields because we don't have to spend that much on him. It's a late round pick. If he's good, we can re-sign him and pick up his option. If not, he can kind of go sign somewhere else and do his thing. And like you said, there is a scenario that he could still be the future. And even if Russell Wilson plays decent, there's a scenario that they can use him and say, hey, we can develop him and we can, think he's the guy that can be a starting quarterback. But I think the market, is it just me? The market got really cold for Justin Fields.
It did.
I don't know if it was, maybe we overhyped it with the social media world, because all these other guys were like the amount of money Kirk Cousins was getting and the amount of shooters he had to Justin Fields. And yes, Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Justin Fields, to be fair. But I guess we were looking at the upside of Justin Fields, and it looks like a lot of these smart football guys, I should say, are looking at Justin Fields, and it's like, hey, he doesn't get the ball out on time and on target with accuracy. He's got a lot of physical tools, but in terms of playing the quarterback position, Kirk Cousins is going to get that done.
But I mean, I guess the other issue is, though, should we be surprised? Because say what you want, but Mac Jones showed more as an NFL quarterback than Justin Fields. Now I think Justin Fields has much more potential, but I'm just saying what they showed.
Yeah, I
Mac
agree.
Jones' first year, his rookie year, was better than any year Justin Fields has had in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw he's just going to be a backup in Jacksonville now. I think he went for like a 6th round pick.
Yep.
So I mean, listen, man. Once one team is out on you, it seems like pretty much the whole league is out on you, and you really have to claw your way back into being considered a starting quarterback. We see how long it takes Geno to do that.
Yeah, but the thing is, as you alluded to it, the Justin Fields, what he has upside athletically, is not what Geno Smith. You know what I'm saying? So like he has a elite traits with. It's not just like he can run. I mean, he's got a super strong arm too, right? So he's got elite traits, and I don't know if I'm Justin Fields. I'm trying to think what his logic would be to be in Pittsburgh, other than it is a great infrastructure and a team to go to,
It's
right?
probably your
Like
best opportunity too.
right, like maybe some of the other teams are bad teams and stuff like that, and maybe he's betting on look. If Russell Wilson plays the way he's played the last couple of years, I'm gonna get my shot at some point this year. Like,
Exactly, and that's what I think you have to bet on because, like you said, some of these teams may be bad teams, but they may be bad teams looking to get a rookie quarterback. Like, let me just use an example. Let's say Minnesota Vikings, and then they go and draft J.J. McCarthy. If I'm Justin Fields, I'm like, okay, maybe the Vikings are showing interest in me, but I go there, I only play 6 games, and then they decided they want to bring J.J. McCarthy along and start getting him some starting reps, and I lose my job because of nothing. So I just feel like the bad teams are going to be going out there trying to get young quarterbacks in the draft, and out of the good teams, they already have their quarterback chosen, like their quarterback of the future. So I feel like this was just the best case scenario.
and honestly, what you're describing is basically the difference between being a bridge quarterback and being the savior. Because
Yeah,
your first scenario is like, hey, you're a bridge quarterback, and no one wants to really be the bridge quarterback unless you're like an older quarterback that you've already, had a solid career and you're just kind of collecting checks. But if you're a young quarterback in your fourth year in the league, you do not want to be a bridge quarterback. Because Trey, thing you and I can agree on: if you are a bridge quarterback, the league will always just view you as a bridge quarterback. That's it. Like once you become a bridge quarterback, you don't just get back into the only unprecedented thing that I've ever seen that is basically Jared Goff. He's really the only guy that was like essentially supposed to be a bridge quarterback, and then he just wasn't. By the way, that's what we thought he was. Maybe Detroit never viewed him as a bridge quarterback all along, though. You know what I mean? To be fair, so I
and
don't know that either.
and what I'm gonna say too is though I feel like Jared Goff still got a little bit more chances than the other bridge quarterbacks would have gotten, just because he was still young and he had been to a Super Bowl. Regardless of what you
True.
think about his play to get into that Super Bowl, and you can say it was Sean McVay's system that got him there, I still think they gave him a little bit more cachet than somebody like Justin Fields or any other quote unquote bridge quarterback would have.
Correct. And the last thing I'll say on Justin, if I'm Justin Fields, Trey, I'm kind of in a good spot, and here's why. The most popular guy in the town is always the backup quarterback. It's always the backup quarterback. You and I both know it's always the backup quarterback. So as soon as Russell Wilson, even if he doesn't play terribly, he's just got to have a couple average games and let the Steelers lose some of those games in which he played average to below average. Those fans are going to be clamoring for Justin Fields, and they're going to be like, just throw the guy out there. Just give him a chance. We know he's athletic, this and that. And we've seen organizations, even organizations as high and mighty as the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have succumbed to public pressure. So if I'm Justin Fields, just sit back, relax, work hard, and just wait. Because it's 17 games, injuries happen, bad play happens, organizations and coaching staffs and things change. You're going to get your shot. So if I'm Justin Fields, that's what I'm basically relying on.
Exactly. Wait your time.
Yep. But I mean, speaking of the rest of the free agency, because I wanted to touch on it, there was a lot of moves going on. Was there any move that stood out to you? You could go either way. Maybe there's a guy you thought that got way overpaid. Maybe there was a move that you liked bargain wise for the team that's going to make a real impact. Anything that stuck out?
I would just say the first one, like, is one of the first moves of free agency, and it stuck out with me, and that was Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm just like,
that's your man. You said. Remember last year? You said you take him over Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, but listen, he didn't come off an Achilles injury last year.
True.
I mean, he's coming off an Achilles injury. I think he's like, was he like 34, 35?
Yeah, I think he's 35, almost 36, I think.
See, that's my point. You're coming off an Achilles injury. Now I'm about to give you a 4-year contract for all that money Atlanta's doing. And like my thing is too, like Atlanta, why not try to go out and get a young quarterback? Because I don't really think you're in a win that position. Like maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Arthur Smith was just that bad of a head coach that I didn't realize that you guys are preparing to go to the Super Bowl next year. But I just feel like you should have bought your time, got a young quarterback, got somebody for the future. Because I don't think Kirk Cousins is the future. You've seen his best days. I just don't understand what Atlanta's going to do next year. So what does he do for your team?
Well, here's what I can tell you what Kirk Cousins does, and I'm going to disagree. His game was never predicated off athleticism, so we can probably assume that he's going to get a full recovery and be able to play fine. Here's the main thing, though, Trey. Raheem Morris had a horrible first stint as a head coach. You remember Josh Freeman? Yeah, I know people probably listening to this don't even remember who that is.
Yeah, but that was Tampa Bay. Come on now.
Most people listening to this probably don't remember who that is. Raheem Morris hitched his ride, so the way people should look at this is, if you're a head coach, especially your first time head coach, main thing you got to do is you got to get a quarterback. Because if you don't get a quarterback and you're always searching for a quarterback, that's the quickest way for you to lose your job in a couple years. That's just usually how this works. I'm not hitching my ride if I'm Raheem Morris. I just waited almost over a decade to get my second shot as a head coach. I'm not hitching my ride to a guy I'm not even sure about. I'm going to hitch my guy that I know can play quarterback. He may not be elite, but he definitely going to win me games and make sure I don't get fired. Second of all, Trey, here's why Atlanta has to win now. Bijan Robinson is great right now, Trey. Yeah. Right now. He's the top 5 back in the league today. Period. And we know running backs going to the second contract, right? So you want to maximize him while he's playing well. Drake London, Kyle Pitts, these are guys are basically, I don't know if they're elite yet, but they're very good weapons. But we know how this works as well. We're seeing it with the Bengals with T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. You only got a couple years with those guys because guys got to get paid. Guys going to request trades. You got to franchise tag guys. You don't have enough money. You still got to pay a whole defense, right? So I think you got to actually try to win right now with this window, because if you look at the Bengals, to counter, look what they did. They made a run while Joe Burrow was on a rookie contract, Jamar Chase on a rookie contract, T. Higgins on a rookie contract, and it was all good and fine. They're probably going to lose T. Higgins. You got to pay Jamar Chase next year, so things just get tighter is what I'm saying. I think you got time to go get a younger quarterback when, the time is right, when you feel like there's a right guy. But I don't think you should just go get a young quarterback just for the sake of that they're young. Now, the only difference would be, Trey, if they had a top 3 pick. Now, if there was a top 3 pick and you feel like you can get the Drake May or Jaden Daniels or Caleb, yeah, but not to get a Justin Fields. We don't even know. I think we would know he's a starting quarterback in the league, but it could end up being a real disaster. And look, I'm sure you can agree on this, Trey. Whatever we think about Kirk Cousins, it's probably not going to go horribly just based on his career. He wins games.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to go horribly, but I just don't think – I think you're going to be stuck in no man's land. And I just think 3 or 4 years from now, you're going to be a wild card team if you're in the playoffs at all. And you get to restart from ground zero.
Oh, they might win the division this year. They're in a bad division.
I mean, they are. I mean, they could do like what they could do what Tampa did last year. I mean, they are in a bad division. Yeah. I just don't think you're going to amount much of that. I think you might win 1 game and that's it. Kind of like what Tampa did. But hey, if that's where your goal is, I mean, by all means, go for it.
I mean, you got to take baby steps. Atlanta just got to at least be relevant. They haven't even made the playoffs since the Super Bowl.
And I give you that. You got to take baby steps. But what I'm saying is you're going to take these baby steps, and then you're going to take a huge step backwards. You're not getting to the mountaintop and just going up and above that. You're going to take baby steps just to move forward and go backwards in a couple of years.
But the alternative is you get Justin Fields, and maybe he's not a good quarterback, and then now you've just wasted that. And you wasted, the years of Bijan Robinson and Drake London and Kyle Pitts. So if you're weighing that, I'm going to go with the guy that I at least have seen play football at a high level. You know what I'm saying? I guess if I'm them. So, but Trey, the pick I love, or the free agency signing I love the Saquon deal, Trey. Now, I don't love the Saquon deal necessarily. I love it for Philly. I don't think it was necessarily super necessary for them to pay that much. But the way you feel about Lamar and Josh Allen is how I feel about Saquon. I still stand by, if I had one running back to pick in the league, yeah, I know Christian McCaffrey exists. I'm still picking Saquon if healthy. I think what Saquon can do, he's an absolute home run hitter. He can run between the tackles. He can catch the ball. And look, people that's talking to me about Christian McCaffrey, he runs out like a wide receiver. Great, bro. He's not playing wide receiver. Like, sorry, I'm pretty sure Saquon Barkley can beat an off-ball linebacker for a slant route. Relax. Like we just because he does all the workout videos and he runs like a receiver, he ain't playing receiver. So I'm good. I'll take Saquon if he's healthy. But with that Eagles offense, and I know they lost Kelsey, but they'll still have a pretty good offensive line. They just gonna be fun to watch every week. I don't know what they're gonna do, but I'm watching some Eagles games now because I'm just thinking of envisioning a read option with Saquon and Jalen Hurts, and it's gonna be a problem. And
They
if
need
I'm
a
the
good OC though.
yeah, that's true too. That's true. No, that's true. But I just think Saquon. I mean, he takes it to the next level. And at first, I was thinking, and I heard, I think I was listening to Bill Simmons, and he brought somebody on. They were talking about it. It was like at first I was like, why did Philly pay that much for a running back? They weren't in a position of need. But then I see DeAndre Swift get $8 million a year, and I'm like, well, if I'm Philly, I'm not paying DeAndre Swift $8 million a year. You know what I mean? Like if I'm gonna pay a running back, I'm gonna get one of the elite guys. I'm not gonna just get a pretty good guy. You know what I'm saying? Like so. I guess that seems like the going rate for some of these guys. You said what Eckler got, the Aaron Jones, Jacobs. So Saquon's the best of that bunch. So I think he's gonna be worth the money. And I also think he was on a bad team, Trey. Eli Manning, Tommy DeVito, these are his quarterbacks. Daniel Jones, like bad offensive lines, multiple head coaches. Like, I mean, we haven't even seen what he could be in some type of stability.
The only thing I have to say is after last year, and I know the Eagles started off on fire, but after last year, are they the epitome of stability?
Now, in terms of an organization, yes, you got Howie Roseman, and you've had that, and they here's two things.
But Sirianni, him firing in DC midway through the season, them needing OC, like I just don't know, man.
No, that's fair. But can we be fair about this? Same owner, same GM, same quarterback.
Yeah.
Now we can see we'll have to see with the head coach. But you know what Saquon didn't have? A quarterback. You know what he didn't have? Stability at head coach. You know what I mean? Like, at least let me get the stable GM. And the Eagles, by the way, Trey, they always draft well and they always put a roster up. Howie Roseman is going to do that. So if I'm Saquon, I'm gonna go to a team that I know is committed to winning and drafting properly. Now I know everybody they draft is from Georgia, but whatever. But like they're drafting properly and they're putting basically a quality roster together every year. Now, if you're telling me they're going to compete for the Super Bowl, I don't know. That's asking for a lot. But it is also the NFC. If you could get by the Cowboys, I mean, you got the Rams, you got a couple. I mean, the Niners, I guess, and that's really it. So I found. I don't know what his other options were, but I don't know if there was a better option to go to. That's the complete antithesis of what the Giants have been doing the last couple of years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I give you that. And I think you made some solid points where, again, with the ownership and with the quarterback, even the head coaching as of lately, the Eagles have a little bit more stability. But I'm just saying that they showed some kinks in the armor last year, and that just has me a little bit concerned about what's going on in the future.
That's fair. No, that's totally fair. That's totally fair. But if I'm him, they also pay the most money. So ain't nothing to talk about. So if we being fair, ain't nothing to talk about. But speaking of talking, I'm gonna let you, Trey, talk about LeBron and JJ Redick's podcast. So I'm basically we're gonna leave that alone. But I do want to talk about some basketball, and I actually want to talk about. I actually thought about this. Well, two things. Can we just take like a minute or two, Trey? What's wrong with Kyrie Irving, man? What's wrong with Kyrie Irving? I honestly have no words for that, for what I just saw the other night with that game winner.
I'm so happy you brought it up. I want to say something.
Okay.
He's always been this good. It's been the other foolishness off the court that's made people kind of despise him and kind of ignore him.
Mm-hmm.
If he kind of
and he wasn't healthy sometimes
too. That's why we would see like this more often. Like we would acknowledge it more often.
It might have been the greatest game winner I ever seen. I don't want to be too hyperbolic. I shouldn't.
It might be the greatest move. Like I think Michael Jordan's like Game 6. Like
circumstance matters, not like a finals or a game. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm. But I think it was the greatest move I've ever seen and the most difficult game winner I can ever recall.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when he threw that up, I'm watching that live and I'm just like, the audacity to even throw that up is what's crazy. And I don't want to be negative, Trey, but I did hear some talk after Kyrie hit the game winner. And I'm gonna just be fair. I've said it before. I'm gonna say it again. Kyrie's a great player. I think Kyrie Irving, Trey, I think he might be the greatest shot creator of all time. Like both hands.
There's argument there. I'm not gonna.
finishing, scoring at all three levels. Hell, he could post up as a guard. Like I don't think there's a better shot creator all time. Period. When you combine the handles with the scoring ability, that's what I account as shot creation. I account that as both put together. I don't think there's a greater player. But what we're not gonna do, Trey, please, people, do not start with the Kyrie Irving top 75 argument again, just because he hit this big shot.
Okay? No.
I've heard that come up, and I don't want to be the guy to rain on the guy's parade. Is Kyrie Irving a top 75 talent ever? Yes. But that is not what the top 75 is, everyone. Just because you're one of the top 75 talents ever does not mean you should be on the list. Accomplishments and accolades matter for these. Yeah, can I argue about Reggie Miller and a couple guys maybe have an argument to not be on the list? Sure, fine. But Kyrie Irving's never been the best player on a consistent contender. He's had issues where he's not been on the court, also some of which have been just injury, so not completely blaming him. And if I'm making an argument about top 75, I'm not bringing up Kyrie Irving, Trey. Dwight Howard and Vince Carter are at the runners-up if we talking about guys that really should have been on the list that have full-on accolades that weren't on the list, okay? So, like, let's pump the brakes on the Kyrie Irving. He had a great shot. He's a great, great player. I'm happy to watch him. I would pay a bunch of money to go watch him in person. But just because he had a great shot and a lefty hook does not mean he's top 75 all time.
100%, I agree. I mean, he doesn't even play enough to be top 75 all the time. We're going to be 100% honest about it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that basically come up, and I was like, let's not do this again. I mean, he's great, and I think they will. Like we've already said, I think they will give a team fits in the playoffs. You and I both agree about that. They will give some team a whole problem, yeah. But I'm just happy to just witness that. And by the way, I saw 2 game winners on the same day because I just watched the Bam game winner 3 right before that, like maybe 30 minutes before that. So what a great day of just basketball as a fan. And of course, me being a Heat fan, Bam hitting a 3 is what we've always been asking for years. And then of course, hit him at the buzzer is even better. So, but I actually got something to say. Speaking of Vince Carter, Trey, because I did hear this. You saw the Ant Edwards dunk last night. You know that was stupid. That was stupid. I mean, that was stupid. Like that was crazy. By the way, on a night where Jalen Johnson dunked on Austin Reeves, and let me not get inappropriate. Y'all saw the dunk, but
he got 2 to the head.
Yeah. So that Jalen Johnson dunk would be one of the top dunks of the year. But we're not even talking about that because of the Ant Edwards dunk.
Hey, let me say this. I know Austin Reeves is so happy right now because nobody's talking about him getting dunked on like that.
Yeah, no. If you are going to get dunked on, do it on the night where a guy that has an even better dunk. Like, for real. Do it on the night. And it helps that it is Ant Edwards, a guy that we love, that we've been talking about, wants to be pushed to the face of the league, one of the faces of the league and stuff like that.
Making a compelling argument.
Yes. But I want to say this, though, Trey. Ant Edwards, let me make sure I put this correctly. Ant Edwards, I think he's getting a lot of comparisons to Vince Carter with his athleticism and scoring ability and all that good stuff. But I got a challenge for Ant Edwards. Are you going to just become Vince Carter, or can you be Kobe? And there's a difference. They're both extremely talented. Actually, Trey, if I'm being real with you, I think Vince Carter legitimately has an argument to be one of, if not the most talented basketball player ever. Like when you talk about from an athleticism standpoint, he can do everything on a basketball court. He can pass, shoot, score, play defense, do everything. But he didn't seem to have that something little else that Kobe had that propelled them to be greater and just achieve greater heights. Now, Vince Carter was great, made a bunch of All-Star teams, All-NBAs, a bunch of accomplishments, played in the league for forever. But he's not talked in the same vein as Kobe for a reason. And if I'm Ant Edwards, yeah, it'd be great if I end up being Vince Carter, being a multi-time All-Star, have a bunch of exciting dunks, the whole 9 yards. Or am I going to take it a step further and be more serious and end up being Kobe? That's the challenge I have for Ant Edwards.
I think he can be Kobe. I think he has that drive. I think that's not to really be negative against Vince Carter or hold any negative feelings towards him, but I just don't think he had necessarily the same drive that Kobe had.
Right.
I remember when he wanted to leave Toronto, and it looked like he kind of just stopped trying on the court. And I can't ever imagine Kobe Bryant doing that.
Right.
And I'm not saying that Anthony Edwards is going to be Kobe or the second coming, but I think he's a lot closer to Kobe as far as his mental makeup than he is Vince Carter. And I think that's going to be one of the things that help propels him to those Kobe realms. Now, the only thing I would say that might hurt Edwards is at the end of the day, and he's still young, so I don't want to take this. I don't want this to be a knock against him. But I'm gonna say this: he's depending a lot on his athleticism, and that's cool when you're young. But give me 2 or 3 years from now, and I'm gonna need to see a little bit more of your skills showing, like your
Yeah,
footwork, your ball handling, your 3-point shooting. I'm gonna need to see that stand out a little bit more. And
but
he has great footwork now, but I'm just saying I'm gonna need to
yeah,
see a little bit more in your game day to day.
I was gonna say, here's the encouraging thing about what you're saying though. He's added stuff to that bag every year though, so that's the
He
good thing.
has.
So that's the good thing because you see them shots this year. He's making them bank shots off the glass at the mid range. He was not doing that last year. He was not. He was not making those the pull up mid range, and we saw a lot of it in the Team USA games, right? In the summer. So he's adding that to the package. So you're kind of right. He is kind of taking the Kobe vein, where Kobe early in his career, not a great jump shooter. Really just a more of an athletic guy, get to the cup, and then you eventually evolve this game. And then you got that prime Kobe in the middle, where he was like the merge of that great mid-range game and 3-point game, as well as finishing at the basket and then being an elite defender. So if I'm Ant, by the way, I don't know if you watch a lot of Timberwolves games this year because they've been pretty good. Ant is also making like really excellent passes, and I know Ryan Russillo's talked about this too. Like when you watch him, like he's making better reads on the court as well too. So like I think he does have the potential to take that next step, and I think he's a guy that won't fully rely on his athleticism because he just seems like he wants to be one of the greats and not just a great player in the league for a couple years. Not that Vince Carter was. I shouldn't say it like that. He was a great player for like over a decade, but he wants to be one of them ones, as we call it. You know what I mean? So that's my challenge to Anto. But I don't know if you can. I think it makes sense what I'm saying, like Vince Carter, Kobe thing, because I think if you were to take from a talent perspective, I could probably make the argument Vince was more talented, like which is a crazy thing to say. But Vince Carter can do everything on a basketball court. But some guys just don't put it all the way together. And again, his version of not putting it all the way together is still a Hall of Fame, great, great, great career. But I think that's just a testament to how talented he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think that's a knock on him to say that he's not Kobe Bryant or he wasn't Kobe Bryant. I mean, Kobe Bryant is a top 10, maybe a top 5 player of all time. So
Right,
that's not as much of a knock as it might sound.
right, right, right. But speaking of knocks, a guy that you've knocked in the past, Zion, Trey, is he turning the corner? I know people not paying attention as much, but he's putting up some decent numbers. They said he lost about 25 pounds. They said he looks good. I know we've heard this before, so I want to preface this. I know we've heard this before, but people around the organization are saying, Windhorst and those guys are saying it feels different. And I honestly think he's kind of flying a little bit under the radar because we're so used to expecting so much, and some people have kind of like basically hopped off the bandwagon. So I think this might be a good thing he's not getting as much attention. But I do think, Trey, we talked about this with, I think it was with JP and Jesse last time, and we were like, Zion, he can't get that mantle back because of the hype he had coming in, and he's basically been, fairly underwhelming. If if he gets into a playoff series and he beats, he upsets one of these guys, and don't let it be like a LeBron or Curry or whatever. It probably won't be those guys because of seeding, but I don't know if he has a playoffs run kind of like Luka did, where even if they get bounced in the first round, but he's like putting up ridiculous numbers. I think he can kind of like get back into that conversation. What do you think?
I don't think it's ever going to be quite as great as what
Mm,
it could have been had he done this straight out of college when he first got into the league. But I do think
mm-hmm.
he can get back into that conversation about being one of the main faces in the league. So I think, let's just say Anthony Edwards becomes the face of the league. I do think that he could be the second tier face of the league. And what I mean by that is like the LeBron James. He could be the Kevin Durant to the LeBron James. So Anthony Edwards would be the LeBron in this situation, and Zion could be the Kevin Durant, like the second guy up. You know what I mean? And
Okay.
I think if he has a good playoff run this year, and he pairs that up with one more good year next year, I think that he can really enter that stratosphere. I think the only thing that people will hold against him right now is just the fact that you've been in the league. What is this, your 4th or 5th year? And this is the only really good year we've seen as far as you playing the whole number of games in one year. I think he's played like 50 games so far, playing the majority of the games in a year and playing good. Like, this is the most we've seen. So I think we have to see one more year.
Yeah, he'd have to sustain it. It's kind of like the Joel Embiid early injuries. Like you kind of sustain it for a couple years for us to kind of buy back in. But even Embiid didn't have the hype Zion did, and it I think Zion's domination could look different than Embiid. You know what I mean? Embiid is based on skill and being big. Zion's is just like, I mean, he's big and strong, but he's also big, strong, and fast. And he's probably jumping out the gym and playing excellent defense and doing a lot of things that honestly would get us hyped because we haven't really seen a guy his size be able to do all that type of stuff. So I think, when you think about it that way, I think he can get people back. Now, like you said, I don't know if he'll get back to the where he was. I mean, that's the only question because where he was so high. It was probably almost too high even to begin with in general. To be fair to Zion, so it may have been too high to begin with, but it's really, really hard to imagine that he can grasp that back. Not after just 1 year, but man, I like what I'm seeing from Zion. Now, I told this to y'all, but I mean, if he can grab more than 5 rebounds, that'd be great at some point.
I'm not gonna be picky right now.
You said you're not gonna be picky, but I also said if you're on the basketball court, you tell me you can't grab more than 5 rebounds. Tyler Hero's grabbing more than 5 rebounds. Come on, like what are we doing? Like,
no, I understand it, but I'm just look, man. We ain't even seen this man been on the court this much. Like I'm taking
you're just a grateful fan right now.
yeah, small victories. Like I said, I always have to say this because I've been such a critic of him, but there was a time where I used to argue with you and JP and Jesse, and I would say that I would take him over Luka.
Yeah, that was a real thing.
And I stayed in that point for a couple of years until I was like, you know what, I've seen enough. You just don't care enough about the game. And I do want to make one point. Our friend JP, he brought up a valid point. Why does it take Zion? Why does he have to play himself into shape? Like, why does he decide that he wants to get in shape in January instead of doing that in the offseason? That's a little bit concerning, but I guess at least he decided to get in shape at some point this season.
You know what? That's the $1 million question. And honestly, the only person that has that answer is Zion. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only person that has that answer. Because I'm sure people within the Pelicans organization have been asking that since the beginning of time. Right? So hopefully this is the I don't know, maybe this is the point where if he performs well being in shape and he takes his game to a next level, that may be the light bulb moment where he's like, okay, this is the shape I want to stay in. These are the heights that I want to reach within my game. So that's what we're all hoping as basketball fans. So we'll touch base and we'll see how that goes. But before we get out of here, I do want to at least I guess mention March Madness, Trey. I mean, I don't want to sound so.
I'm out of it.
I don't want to sound. Look, we got our March Madness bracket. Like Trey always says, he made his yearly donation, even though he might win it. I mean, I could probably give you a couple things to look forward to. Is there anything you're even looking forward to? I'm doing my women's bracket too now, Trey.
Women's. No. I'm excited about the women's. Like, if we're gonna talk about that, like I'm 10 toes down for that. As far as the men's, like I guess if I had to pick, like there's a couple players out there that you might be interested in. What is it? Dalton Connect with Tennessee.
Yep.
Reed Shepard with Kentucky. Like there's a couple players where these certain teams, Rob Dillingham, like if they make a run, like you might be interested in looking at this player here and there. But
I like Caleb Love in Arizona too.
Yeah,
I like him too. Yeah, there's a couple.
That's like another good one. But I mean, other than that, like I feel like in comparison to other years, we're grasping at straws if we're being honest.
Yep. Now here's the good thing about March Madness in regards to the men's tournament. We all know it don't really matter what players, what teams you know. You're probably gonna get close games that's down to the wire in the first couple days. So that's the good thing. That's the good thing. No matter who we may or may not know, it might not necessarily draw us in, but the games will, right? Just because of what's at stake. So that is a good thing. But yeah, you're right. It is atypical to not even have a couple stars. I mean, Zach Edey is going to win the Player of the Year, and no one that's listening to this probably even knows who he is.
I mean, the man might not even get drafted.
Right, exactly. So, and that's a whole different conversation about how we can fix college basketball to begin with, because they got to get a handle on that stuff. Because even when we were growing up, I mean, I know those guys talk about it in the 80s and 90s, but even when we were growing up in the early 2000s, college basketball was still a big deal. And
JJ Redick was a household name at one point.
Yeah, man. I remember watching the Syracuses and the UConns and all these squads. I mean, Duke UNC was like a big deal. Like that was we're both from Florida and we're watching Duke UNC. You know what I'm saying? Like that was a big deal. Like it
I
was
mean, we
like
remember Joe Kim Noah with you up in all what they were doing. Al
the
Horford.
back-to-back champions with Horford. Yeah, those were like exciting, fun teams. Like, even that Greg Oden year with Ohio State with Mike Conley. Like
Yes.
there were some teams, man. I mean, I, it makes me sad because there's gonna be this generation growing up that they're just used to this overtime elite and G League, this and that, which is great. Gives these guys different avenues. But man, when college basketball was right, it was really fun.
But you
Like
know
it
why
was
I'm not that
really.
sad though?
You said I don't find it sad?
No, why I'm not sad?
Why is that?
Well, because I think the women's game is taking the place. Like we
Yeah.
might be losing the men's game, like you said, the overtime elite and the G League United and all this other stuff. But I feel like the women's game is taking its place.
But I wanted both. I mean, we had great women's
But
games.
we never had both.
We had the Candace Parker, the Diana Taurasi's. Like we had those. But yeah, it's on a different level
Yeah,
because
yeah,
of
yeah. You and
yeah.
I might have looked at it, but let's be honest, it wasn't what they call water cooler talk that you could take to work the next day. Like nobody, it was you and I, like the sports heads were looking at it.
Yeah. And yeah, the women's tournament, there's gonna be so many eyes locked in on that because of however you feel
Caitlin
about
Page, like I'm locked in. South
yeah.
Carolina, yeah, I'm locked in.
Listen, however you feel about Angel Reese, and we're supporters of her, you gonna watch.
You
Whether
gonna
you
watch her?
Yep.
You gonna
Whether
watch
you
Kim
want to win
Mulkey?
or
Like you want to
lose.
see them?
Yep, exactly. You're gonna watch her. Obviously, Caitlin Clark. I mean, they've got South Carolina with Dawn Staley, and they're
Don
undefeated.
Staley Page. I'm telling you, hey Page, that's my dog right there.
Listen, even the West Coast, Juju Watkins out of USC, right? Like you got a bunch of girls out there hooping, man, and that tournament is gonna be really, really exciting to watch, especially as we get to some of those big schools. Once we start getting down to the Sweet 16, Elite Eight, like when you get those matchups that you want, you know what I mean? Like
I
we're
just
gonna
want
be
to say one thing though before we
yeah.
leave. I know we're getting into the weeds, but I just have to make this point. Why in the hell is LSU and South Carolina in the same side of the bracket? Like we did it.
Yeah.
There's no way they can get to the Final Four. Like why is that?
I think from what I heard, they just try to do it like and not like consider like TV ratings and stuff that how they would do in normal tournaments or regions and stuff like that and
Man,
seeding.
you ain't got no time for that. And no disrespect when I say this. The women's game is still trying to build itself up. You don't have no time to be doing all that.
Oh no, I agree with you. If I'm them, I don't care what. Obviously, you're not going to make them a different seed, but like I'm putting them in a different region. Like
Exactly.
my dream is I want to see USC and South Carolina with Juju Watkins and then Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Like that's the dream, right? Like I want those are the squad. I mean, I'm missing a couple squads in there, but you get it for the most
But
part. Like
hell, give and take. Like it don't matter.
Right.
That's what we want to see, those games like that in the Final Four. Like why are we? I'm just mad that we're going to see this possibly like in the Sweet 16 now, and it's like it's going to be a good game, but it's just like, man, the anticipation, the hype around this game could have been so much larger had this been the Final Four as opposed to Sweet 16.
And to be honest with you too, if those two teams match up against each other, Caitlin LSU or plays LSU and they match up in the Sweet 16, the team that wins that game, I mean, it's going to be hard to get ready for the next game emotionally. Like, you know what I mean? Because that's such a big game. And granted, when they played last year, wasn't it in the Final Four?
Yep.
Right. So, like, it wasn't for the championship, but I think it was for, like, the Final Four. And then they won
It's the Final Four.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, you know how that is. Like, you win a big game like that. Sometimes it's a letdown. You play that next school. Like, it's just what it is. Now, that obviously it's on them to overcome that. But you're right. I would have wanted to see them, in a championship. Honestly, in a championship game or at least in the Final Four if I can.
At least. And the men's game would have never did that. I was just into that. I hear what you're saying about making it fair. You don't want to be a TV product and whatnot. And I get that, but I'm just saying the men's game would have never did that.
Yeah, the men's game is too greedy for that. They would have made sure they got him ready. Yeah, they would have made sure they got him ready. I mean, listen, they made sure they got that Duke UNC Final Four matchup. I ain't forget.
Hey, they did everything in their power to make sure they did that.
They wanted that Duke. They wanted that Coach K on the way out. They needed that one. So yeah,
that was smart though.
So yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta do what you gotta do. Paolo was there. Yeah, they gotta do what you gotta do. So I mean, I'm not mad at that. But yeah, I'm excited for that. I gotta do my women's bracket too. I don't know who I'm gonna pick for the winners or anything yet, but I'm looking forward to those.
I'm going UConn. I'm just going with who my favorite team is.
You going UConn in the men's?
No. Women's. I ain't out. Men's like I'm gonna throw some darts, flip some coins.
Yeah, I'm throwing some darts in the men's. I don't even have a winner off the top of my head. I got to see how. I've only actually looked at the men's bracket once, so I got to see how it all lays out. The women's, I don't know if Caitlin's going to get it, but I think she'll go on a run though. I think she'll go on a run, but I don't know if she's going to get it. It's just the women's game. There's a lot of talent out there.
It's so
year.
deep. Like, that's why I'm like, that's why I don't think you're gonna win it. I just think you got to pick the field. Like, it's just too deep.
Yeah. You got, and they got, and by the way, Iowa has a really good squad too. It ain't just Caitlin.
Oh no, they got a good squad. Yeah.
Yeah. So just for people that don't know, I know they only see Caitlin, but yeah, they're in just a number like 1 seed or whatever, just to be a number 1 seed because of Caitlin.
I mean, they won the Big Ten, so Big Ten tournament. So let's keep that in mind too.
Right. So yeah, no, it'd be fun to watch for sure, but. And last year for the Pac-12, so that's kind of sad too. Speaking of another thing, losing with college basketball.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So that was another thing growing up. I know we on the East Coast, but I still watched some Pac-12, Pac-10 and stuff back in the day too. So
I guess it don't matter because the ACC's on its way out too. So
yeah, that's true. We're going to something different. So, but I want to thank everybody so much for joining us once again. We got over a lot of content. We didn't think we had that much to talk about, but we did, so that was cool. Obviously. Go ahead and give us a like, subscribe. Again, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, YouTube. Essentially anywhere you can find us, you can find us. Just go ahead and give us a like and a rate. It helps us out a lot. We'll drop some content for you guys throughout the week so you guys can engage with us and drop some polls, get back on that for you guys as well. And of course, I want to swing it to Trey.
Again, thank you so much for joining us, guys. Until next week. Peace.